Again, folks, it's just after 1 a.m. It's 1:12, and we're here to ring the bells. How are we doing tonight, alright? This morning, I should say. I'm doing it again. I'm having some watered down green tea, and I'm going to tell you what's going to be. Look, tonight I got a special podcast for you. A really quick one. It's another one of those quick crams if you want to be better for the exam, okay? What I'm showing you tonight is a podcast that's been in the making for some time, but the delivery and everything like this pretty much came to me and how I should present it to you all over the last few hours here. It's just when the mind relaxes, and I really haven't had a chance to do too much thinking about astrology today. But this was sitting on the back burner, and when I got home, I was looking at things, and we've been hanging out and talking about that Mars guy. That's what we've been doing for the past couple podcasts here, especially last night, or yesterday morning. But the other thing we have to look at is once again the scrolling keywords for the Mars, for Aries and Mars. When I present the Scorpio scroll of keywords, there will be a notation that you should, because the Scorpio, what I will do for the Scorpio notation will be pretty much going forward and saying this is going to be for Pluto and for all the Mars attributes for Scorpio. Please see Aries as well, right? That way, or not Aries, but the Mars video. But that's pretty much how I want to do that. Now let's move forward and think about Michael, right? Because it's all about this Mars thing with Michael, right? It's very interesting how it's all linking together on my delivery here. I'm going to be just as calm and cool and collected as possible this morning. It's been a long day, and here we go. I want to look at this guy, Mr. Moonwalker himself. This is what we call this guy. He was famous for the moonwalk, right? And his get up and go kind of outfit. Sometimes space age, sometimes just clever, and jazzy with that pop delivery, right? So when we look at that moonwalk, it's not that hard to see. When you look at how I have the chart set up here, or how the father has a chart set up, because here we are, a gentleman born with a Pisces ascendant, and he has a moon in Pisces as well, folks. Michael has a moon at, his Pisces ascendant is at 10 degrees, 07, and it's just moving into that Pisces Cancer, right? That Pisces Cancer is like how he skirts around the stage, like a crab would, right? But he's at that moonwalk to him because that Cancer house is ruled by the moon, and here we find the moon sitting right there in the middle, in the second decan, right? That's ruled by the moon, right? Because it's Pisces, then Pisces Cancer, then Pisces Scorpio. That's how Pisces set up, and here he is at 10:07, and look at that funny little number 10:07. That's numerically 8. Here we go, Mister Great with the eights, right? And you got to look at the beautiful eighth house. But when we look at the Pisces rising, can't help but look at that eighth house and the Neptune and Jupiter just hanging out, being one guy, right? Mr. Moonwalk. So this is great to look at this chart. Let's look at his details down here as we move through it. He's got a Sun in Virgo at 6 degrees. These are important notes to keep track of here. Sun at Virgo is 6 degrees, and then his moon is just past, looks like it's just past the full moon stage at 14 degrees, right? So not too far off from the full moon. But then this is going to be the exciting part of the night, folks. We're going to move into the fire signs, because he starts off with the Earth Sun. Remember, that's a huge weight, and that's how he became so wealthy. He had a solid Earth Sun, right? And then his moon is in water, so Earth and water, they cement quite well together, don't you think? So now we got Mercury. Mercury's at Leo at 25 degrees. Okay, and then we have to look at Venus at 17 degrees Leo, and then a Mars at 22 degrees Taurus. Now that's the key thing for the night because this pulls into everything right now that we're talking about. Is Mars in 22 degrees. Okay, maybe that number will come up later on, but you could probably figure out that 22-degree Mars mark. But here's Mars. There he is. And that's the guy we've been talking about, that Mars, for the past couple little episodes here. Now we got Jupiter at 28 degrees Libra, Saturn at 19 degrees, Uranus, or however you want to pronounce that weird customer's name, at 13 degrees Leo. Wow, check that out, 13. He's 13 degrees, he has a Uranus at 13 degrees Leo and 30 minutes. And here I have a Jupiter at 13 degrees, 34 minutes. Like, doesn't the Father have a sense of humor? Okay, now Mercury, his Neptune is Scorpio at 2 degrees, 34 minutes. That's actually perfectly square of my Sun. And then it's also conjunct my Mars. Isn't that funny? He's so funny, this guy, my father. And then his Pluto is at 2 degrees Virgo. Okay, these are very important to keep track of here. Okay, we can't forget these, and if you forget what I just talked about here in these different stations for the planets, I'll scroll back up again, show you where they all are. There's the big, because you see the thing is Leo is that that's where he gets his performing at, right? And he's got a Mercury retrograde, right? He's probably remixing a whole bunch of stuff in his head, right? Mercury retrograde in Leo. And then, as I said before, he's got the Pluto and the Sun there together in just right before the horizon, right? He's just right down and below. And there's the strong 8th house. The 8th house is quite strong because you got Jupiter, second largest planet, along with Neptune, another gas giant, right there in the first degrees. There he is. Look at this, Jupiter, 28 degrees Libra, right? As we all know, that's in that trade over period, right? Jupiter's in that trade over period. It's just entering that trade over period, and that's the way he trades. I mean, it's a great place for. It's like an abundance of trading with the partner, right? Because the second house is down here, and he's got that Mars in the second house at that 22-degree mark. Remember, that 22-degree mark of Mars is very important right now. We gotta think about that 22-degree mark. Now let's move forward. We've seen his chart. Now let's go down a road I haven't gone down with you yet, and I don't want my channel to be all about boom and gloom. I want you to be able to think about transits, right? Think about predictions, but think about yourself, right? Think about, astrology all focused in where you are and everything moving around you. You got a chart of a town that you're living in, and then you got a chart of a country that you're living in, and then you got your natal chart, and then you got your progress chart. But then again, between that natal and the progress, you have always these transits. And this is very important to know because we just looked at a chart of a so-called superstar, the king of pop himself, right? So what we're going to start off with, I have this great playlist I've been working on for a very long time, dedicated to musicians and athletes, about turning points in their life, right? And I'm going to show you how to understand this predictive astrology even more through the mundane astrology we just went over with Micheal Jackson. But now we're going to look at the time period of Micheal. What I have here is this is his first track to go number one. Got to be there, okay? It's got to be there. This is the what they have for us is the time it was recorded, June 1971, and then the time it was released, October 7, 1991. Okay, so with this new playlist I have for you, if you're an artist or if you're going to be an athlete, this is going to be a great playlist for you, because it's going to show you, like, I'm going to show you the whole entire timing and the turning of events through this release for Micheal Jackson. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, it's going to be very simple and quick, right to the point. We have the particulars right here on Wikipedia, but most importantly, we want to look to is, we have all these particulars, but we want to move on fast because there's a lot of ground to cover. We want to look at this recorded date and this release date, okay? And we're going to compare it to his own charts, right? We're going to show you this turning point in his life in these cycles, these like 28-day cycles and 8-year cycles of Venus, and the 2-year cycles of Venus. I have all these different cycles for you, but we're going to clobber just one selection of these cycles tonight. And there's more. There's so much more. I have so many charts to explain to you and show you to help you to understand your cycles through your career and through your manifestation and your partaking of life, and contributing as an individual, right? Because we all want to be appreciated and have that sense that we have contributed to the betterment of humanity, right? We don't all want to be a bunch of boom doomers, especially as artist people, right? We want to be prolific. So here we go. This is the King of Pop, his very first track. This is on the right side here. We have Micheal, and then we're going to move on over here and move this up here, and look at this. Now, what I have here on this chart is, if you could guess, what I've done, if you can't guess, is I have created a collection of charts. There's only going to be 3. I mean, we don't need, as I said, we want to try to get the redundancy out of the instruction. That way, we get more learning done, and we don't fall asleep too quickly. What I've done is, I've looked at the time period of the recording of this track. I mean, it's his first number 1, right? This is Micheal's first number 1. And what I've done here is I could not help to look and see at the time, because they said that the recording was going on in June of 71, and then it was released in October, okay? And so when we look at June, what I've done here is, for the first chart that I have as the alpha. And when I call it the alpha is because it's the first complete cycle. It'll go right into June. It'll be 28 days until the moon is where it's at now. I've cast a chart where the moon, the recording studio is in Hollywood, California. So what we have here is, I have the moon at 10 degrees, 7 minutes, Pisces. This is what I've done. Now, this is good. This is a good practice for you when you're looking at charts, and you're trying to figure out what was exactly going on in Micheal's head, and what was going on, around him during this time period. Because the transits are like everything that's going around the basically the chart, right? The astrological chart. That's what we're looking at, his life, right? So here we are. These are the transits that are going around. And what I've done is I've cast the chart right at the moment the moon crosses over his ascendant. Because we know that the moon won't be there for 28 more days. We know it won't be there. And then in that time period, the moon will, in just a short few moments, less than a day, because this is at 12:54 p.m. is when the moon crosses at 12:54 in the afternoon. He just had lunch or something, and basically now the moon has crossed over his ascendant, and it won't do this again for 28 days, but just a few hours later, the moon will then make its 28-day return to his moon in Pisces. So we know that, because we know he's recording, and this is for the 18th, so we know that there's like 13 more days left or something like this left in May. So we know that half of this cycle, I mean, what is going on? What he's doing, he's cleaning up notes because he's going to go into the studio, right? So now, what's happening? What's going on in the chart for this alpha moment? We gotta look at the nodes. We gotta look at the nodes of fate. They're at 18 degrees, 13 minutes, Leo. That's where they are. Leo and Aquarius. You know, the child on the stage. The child on the stage in front of a stadium. You know, rocking, you know, his tunes. Like the killer bamboo he is, right? Holy cow. Michael can spin a turn and teach us all how to learn, right? Michael can do this. How many people have learned from Michael? What kind of great teacher has he been? So now, when we look at the nodes of fate for this time period, you know, of this transit, of the transit to his ascendant in Hollywood, right? You know, this is the time period, you know, when we look at this, because this is the moon would be crossing over his ascendant, right? But his ascendant would be in the 7th house. Isn't that convenient? At 1 degree, 30 minutes, like 4. That's the score. When I spin, I'll shut the door, right? And look at the 4th house there, eh? Holy cow. Look at that. There's that Jupiter-Neptune thing happening. 1 and 2 degrees Sagittarius. Oh, holy cow! Is that just two planets that want to get together and talk about, you know, doing some, you know, journeying over seas? That's for sure. 4th house. You know, the 4th house is the water sign, and then you got, you know, Neptune in there, and then you have Jupiter, right? And it's definitely going to be, you know, something a lot of people going to play in their kitchens, I tell you. So now let's take a look here. Let's look at this chart, right? Because Michael's got this moon. He's got this Mars at 22 degrees. We're going to come back to this again because it's very important, right? Because what we're going to do here, is this is the beginning. Because what's going to happen here between now and then the next charts to come. Here's Act 2 right here. Act 2 is the 2nd month, right? And then there'll be a 3rd month that will take care of June. But this chart right here starts us off on May 18th. And then it's like the preamble moments, because this chart will finish and start right here, which we have. I'll pull this down here. It's quite beautiful. I mean, this is a great way to learn, because several months go by until the release is happening. Several months absolutely go by before the release of the track, right? So in June 14th, we know more than likely they're recording, right? So this right here, once again, I have the charts casted for when it's crossing over his ascendant. Because we know that the moon would be then in the 4th house. But the Chiron moment, all the lineups of these charts to Michael's are it's just these charts are unreally beautifully lined up for looking at, you know, a number 1 track, you know, a global number 1 track, his first one, you know, 1958 to 1971, right? You could do the math. And then now look at this right here. This is what's beautiful. Look at we have Neptune at 1 degree, Sagittarius, And then we have Saturn just getting ready to go into Gemini, right? And look at Michael. Michael is a Virgo at 6 degrees. Look where Venus is. Venus is actually getting ready to square. Like it's this. There's this friction going on, right? There's that friction going on, and there's Mercury here in Gemini. But you see, the most important part of this here, what we're watching here, is this Mars guy. Because in the second part of this chart, beforehand, on the alpha chart, the nodes, where they were, and where are they now? Look, you can see the node at 15 degrees. But in this time period, to get to this chart right here, the nodes have crossed over. Well, not these, actually Mars is there, but when you look at this, where's the other chart? Where did the other chart go to? There it is right here. We want to show you this. Look at this right over here. And look at this Leo house over here for Michael, all right? When we look at these Leo players, right? Because his first Leo planet is probably going to be his Mercury at 25 degrees. But what we're looking at, really, what's important is that Venus, okay? Because the Venus is going to, when we look at this, Act 2, look where Mars is. Mars is opposed Michael's Venus on this Act 2. The node has already crossed over his Venus, and here's Alpha over here. Here's Alpha over here. When we see this over here, on this chart right here, we have the node at 18 degrees, and then Mars is at just 7 degrees Aquarius, and then the node, of course, the south node is perfectly opposed, and then we got Vista as well, okay, at 4 degrees, that devotional thing. And then, as I said, these charts are drawn for when the moon transits his ascendant. And then he does the lunar return, just a couple hours later, right? It's a great chart. And then look at the Chiron. Look at the Chiron at 12 degrees. Okay? Then here's Act 2. We know that he's putting it together. I won't go to Act 3. What we're going to do is we're going to jump to the release, okay? And I set the release. I was trying to decide, should I set it at midday? And I said, no, we know that the record's going to be released. We'll set it for midnight, right? And what I found, and that's the beauty of it. These are the types of breadcrumbs that you get from the Father when you know you're on the right trail and things aren't going too stale. And the reason why I say this is because for the Got to Be There release on October 7th, and look at this, October 7th, look at this. Because look what we have going on in the Middle East right now. We have this war between Hamas and Israel, okay? And the war kicked off October 7th in 2023, and here, October 7th, 1971, Micheal Jackson is releasing Got to Be There. Isn't that beautiful or what? But the most beautiful thing is that at 12 a.m., right there in Hollywood, we have the moon at 22 degrees Taurus. And that moon at 22 degrees Taurus would be... That moon at 22 degrees Taurus would be absolutely conjunct his Mars at 22 degrees. I mean, is that beautiful or not? Is that beautiful or what? Right? Now, this is the most important part of this whole entire podcast, folks. I mean, you got the charts here. You see the links. But most importantly, we can also see how the node is now at 12 degrees, 31 minutes. It's like conjunct my Jupiter, right? Now check this out, guys. You're going to love it. You're absolutely going to love this one. This is the cat's magic of the whole feat here with this act. Okay? Look at the charts here, okay? It's so beautiful what we see here. We have his Chiron there. Look where Chiron is at 11 degrees. His Chiron is absolutely the Chiron for the time of the release is conjunct my Saturn, right? But look what's happening in his chart right here. Look what's happened. The nodes have gone. The node has drifted. The node has drifted over. The south node has drifted over right through here. It's drifted over his Venus. And it started when this all started. The node was, just passes. Because you think about last year before that, and then the moments growing up to this, but before the release, before he went into the studio, the node had not quite conjunct his Venus. Now the node has conjunct his Venus, and now the node here at 12 degrees has passed over his Uranus as well in Leo. So that's the beauty. This is the beauty of it, right? This is absolutely beautiful, and you can see he was working it, right? He was absolutely working it because it's that sixth house place. He was a worker, right? Look at the pile up of planets, say, in that sixth house, and that Mars squaring that Pluto, right? That's what Mars is doing. Mars is at 22 degrees. Where's that Pluto at? Yeah. Pluto's at 2 degrees. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening there. But you got Mars. There's another square there as well to Leo. The Mercury, right? That's exactly what's going on. That's where he gets his drive right there. Mars square is Mercury. That's the friction on the floor. Show you all the gifts that he has in store. When he sings, it's not a chore. Yes, this is the story of a gentleman with a Pisces ascendant we name our king of moonwalking, Micheal Jackson himself. And folks, I just want to share this with you. I don't think we have to go too much. I mean, you could go in. You could go in and look at this. This is my first track I'm doing with him, and there's a whole bunch of tracks I have for this playlist, and it's another little thing that's been on hold from before COVID. We have the emails to prove it. We've been working on this, and it's going to be a beauty, right? You can see it's already clicking up, but we have to think about this. We have to look at these charts now as a frame of reference and looking at what was going on in his life because of this whole entire moon conjunct his natal Mars at 22 degrees, and we have this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction happening in Taurus at like almost 21 to 22 degrees in 2024. So we can learn from Micheal, right? I mean, look at the most beautiful thing about this chart, and to understand how beautiful the spirit is that when we look at his sun, right here. It's at 6 degrees Virgo. Okay, that's where his sun at. And if we could think about him, the structure of accomplishments that he has placed in our lives, we must look at how Saturn is opposing his sun right now. And here I am coming to you and sharing with you the transit of time, and the works of these planets that made his first number one what it was. Look, folks, hope it wasn't too boring, and and as it goes with Micheal, as Micheal says, and if we're going to make it work at the drawing table, you got to be there, right? And it's the reason why I'm doing this podcast, right? Because I'm always here at the drawing table. I mean, it's everywhere I go. Thank God for iPhones and iMacs and lots of cameras. And thank God for those beautiful stars for us to study in the night as they cross over our clear blue skies. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and thanks a lot for stopping in. And I hope you got something out of the little insight of what made his number one the number one. Cheers. Talk to you soon.